Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Week 1 is in the books, and looking forward to week 2. But gotta tell you, there was a load of injuries back in week 1.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to hear there have been a lot of injuries. 17 notable injuries this past week one, and we wish all the players a speedy recovery, and we hope that you're feeling better at the end of it, at the end of this journey. But it sucks to see, and we'll get into it. We're gonna get right into it with the recap. But before we get into that, I do want to say, Chris Palmer, we forgot one thing last week, and that was our Super Bowl picks.
Right.
How could we forget a Super Bowl pick on week one, the boldest prediction of all? So I want to start by saying I think, despite the Chiefs losing to the Lions, I still think the Chiefs and the 49ers are going to be in a Super Bowl rematch from a couple years ago. So my Super Bowl pick is the Chiefs and the Niners.
It's funny that you mentioned the 49ers after they just gave us one of the fucking biggest beatings that I think we've ever taken at home. But that's to be seen. But I have to agree with you. The 49ers are 100% Super Bowl ready, and the Chiefs, you can't count them out. As of right now, they are the defender of the AFC. So with that, I agree with you. It will be Kansas City, San Francisco in the Super Bowl.
Ooh, we're gonna have to come back to this in February to see if we're right or not. But hey, both teams, there's plenty to talk about with both teams. But with that being said, let's get into our Week One recap so that we can address everything that happened this past weekend. Starting with the Chiefs losing to the Lions in a very close game, 21-20. A big upset that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. But you and I said that there's something special with the Lions, and this might have been their biggest win.
Well, we did talk about this in week 1 that if they were to beat Kansas City, the questions would start coming. Is like, what is happening in Detroit? And what is happening is Jared Goff found a home. And they decided to draft young, really good talent. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 100% the epitome of a franchise receiver from Detroit. He is fast, he is great at route running, he's tough, and he has breakaway speed. Jared Goff is very precise. Them two are going to have a great stint of time together for the rest of Jared Goff's career.
Oh, absolutely. Jared Goff 100% found a home, but I want to say Dan Campbell is the man. He is the man. And I got to say, you and I, we both fell in love with how he coaches the Lions, and I think he is a perfect fit for the underdog mentality that is Detroit. So everyone keep your eye on Detroit. We both predict special things happening from there. So let's move on from Thursday to Sunday in the Sunday slate of games, starting with the 1 o'clock games with Cleveland Browns beating the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3 in an utter thrashing. Joe Burrow with only 82 passing yards the whole game. It was ugly, but it was all Nick Chubb. It was all Nick Chubb all day, and even though it was Deshaun Watson starting, he looked okay. But we're going to talk about the Browns and the Bengals later on. But that it was an ugly game for the Bengals, but solid win for the Browns.
Yeah, solid for the Browns, but first notable injury, comes from the first game is the offensive tackle for the Browns is out. He's out with a knee injury. He is out for the year. Jack Conklin, left tackle. So he is out for the year, week 1.
Oh man, it sucks. It sucks for a lot of players that your first game of the season and you're just out. I want to move on to the Ravens and Houston. The Ravens getting it done against the Houston Texans 25-9, but a lot of big injuries in that game as well. I know J.K. Dobbins is the big one with an Achilles injury out for the year. Um, Tyler Linderbaum and Ronnie Stanley are both day-to-day with a knee and ankle injury respectively. And Marcus Williams, our safety, torn pectoral, expected to miss the entire year. And injuries just cannot escape the Ravens, and injuries do not escape the game of football, man. It sucks so much.
Yep, there is also a notable injury on the Houston side from that game. Jalen Petrie, the rookie safety, he has a bruised lung from taking a knee to the chest from Lamar Jackson on a running play. I didn't
Oh,
get a
man.
chance to look at the highlight and see the play itself when it happened, but that's a new one to me.
Yeah, that's man. That's an ugly one. Anytime your internal organs are really bruised or lacerated to an extent, it's horrible. So we wish all these players, again, we wish all these players a very speedy recovery and that you heal properly on the other side of this recovery journey. So let's move on to Tampa Bay and Minnesota. Tampa Bay getting it done with shaking big, 20-17. Uh, Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson still have that connection, but they couldn't score enough points to beat the Buccaneers.
Yes, very interesting, but that comes from the rapidly declining defense of Minnesota. Um, and the stability that is the receiving core of Tampa. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, but looking over, shout out to Justin Jefferson. As of right now, he is the number two at coming out of week one in receiving yards.
Yes, I mean Justin Jefferson is still he's still a star, and we're going to hopefully see that star this upcoming Thursday when the Minnesota Vikings play the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a great matchup. So let's move on to Carolina and Atlanta. Atlanta getting it done, getting the win over Carolina 24-10. A lot of young studs in Atlanta. Uh, I'm excited to see what the Falcons are going to be doing this year.
Yeah, some eyes seem to be in Atlanta. That was pretty exciting of them. Desmond Ritter, hats off to playing a clean game. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on you for the remainder of the year to see what exactly can be hold of you. Maybe the tables are turning in Atlanta.
Hey, maybe the tables are, man, but there's a lot of questions in Atlanta, but hey, they're rebuilding the right way. Let's move on to two teams that should be rebuilding, the Washington Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals. Uh, and the Commanders taking the win 20-16, a very low scoring game, but a very physical game. Hats off to the Commanders and Ron Rivera just getting a win just by coaching means, and it's a solid start for the Commanders.
Yeah, that Arizona kind of imploded last year, and it's more or less bleeding over into this year, and it's going to continue to bleed over until they can figure out where the bleeding started. Hint: it's probably that Kyler Murray contract. That's probably where it started with all the drama and everything going on there. So you may want to start correcting some issues with your quarterback. But as for the other side of Washington, you can only really expect that, where it's physical for 4 quarters. And if
Mhm.
you simply can't answer 4 physical quarters, you're going to lose.
Yeah,
And Arizona isn't built to go 4 quarters with a Ron Rivera defense with a healthy Chase Young.
yeah. And knock on wood, Chase Young, you stay healthy, man, because it's great to see you on the field. We hope you can stay on the field too. Uh,
Correct.
so let's move on to Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Jacksonville getting it done 31-21. And what's even though it was a 10-point differential, it was a pretty close game for the most part. Colts kind of teased maybe they had something in the tank, but it was a solid win by the Jags. They had to overcome a lot, and I got to say the Jags look as we expected them to be at the top of their game.
Jags look good. Jags are off to the races. I do want to give a notable injury, even though it was cleared as of today. Anthony Richardson was injured with a knee injury. He went down with a
Mhm.
knee injury that this past week. He did return. Um, he was cleared. He said he's okay, but it's still something to keep an eye on as a young um as a young quarterback.
Mhm. Yeah, so let's keep an eye on the Colts and Anthony Richardson going forward this upcoming year. Let's move on to two young quarterbacks who are both entering their sophomore year, Brock Purdy and Kenny Pickett. Uh, and the San Francisco 49ers handily winning that game 30-7. That was not how we both expected it to be, but We'll be talking more about the Steelers later on in this episode, but 49ers, they look ready.
Oh, 100%. They're ready. Super Bowl ready. But I'm going to throw out a couple of notable injuries on Pittsburgh's side.
Mm-hmm.
In the game, we lost Deontay Johnson to a hamstring injury. It's not looking promising for this week at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Pat Fryermuth went down with a chest injury.
Mm-hmm.
So he wound up coming back in and finishing the game. But him playing next week is questionable. And Cam Hayward did not play in the game.
Ooh.
The day of the game, he wound up going for emergency groin surgery. He's going to be out until at least week 8. So, pretty notable on Steelers' end when it comes to injuries there as well.
Yeah, I hate to see it, man. It absolutely sucks. Hopefully, Steelers can rise up to the challenge because they got some tough games ahead of them going forward. Let's move on to the Saints getting the win over the Tennessee Titans, 16-15. It was low scoring game, but hey, clean game, good first win for Derek Carr and the Saints in the NFC South.
He looks good in New Orleans. I'll give you that. I like Derek Carr. He looks pretty good in New Orleans right now. Let's hope it stays that way.
Gotta say, Jimmy G also looked good in Vegas, getting the win over Denver 17-16. It's funny because last year Denver also lost Week 1 17-16 to the Seahawks, so it's the same loss by what looks to be the same team from last year. So, but I gotta say, Raiders and Jimmy G, he looks solid.
Definitely look good. Notable injury from Vegas, probably the roughest hit of the week. Jacoby Myers went down with a concussion, and he was knocked out cold on the field. He wound up getting up and walking off. He says he's okay, but he is 100% concussed. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. It's just an idea of if he will play next week.
Hopefully he takes some time to recover, man. So, let's move on to Philadelphia and New England. Philadelphia getting the solid win, 25-20 in New England. Patriots did have a chance to make a comeback. They were not able to, but it was a very physical game and a very entertaining game to watch.
Gotta love those old school rivalries, man. It's a great game to watch.
Those are Super Bowl rivalry, a Super Bowl rivalry right there. They've been in the Super Bowl twice for each other, so
that's right.
There's some history there. So let's move on to a division rivalry between the Rams and the Seahawks. Rams getting it done, 30-13 over the Seahawks. Matt Stafford, hey, welcome back, man. It's great to see you back on the field. You look great.
Yep, glad to see you healthy. But at the loss of Tyler Lockett on Seattle, another concussion that to go across for week 1. He's possible return for week 2. But overall, it was a very, very entertaining game.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the game of the week. The Miami Dolphins and the Chargers. And now we talked about this game before. We're like, who's going to be the healthier team? Both teams look healthy. Both teams looked absolutely healthy. And the Dolphins came away with a solid win, 36-34. Tua, stop doubting Tua, guys. Just stop doubting him. He's the man. He's the fucking man.
When he's on the field, I 100% agree with you. I said it last week. When he is healthy, the Dolphins are one of the best teams in the AFC.
Yep.
And last week proved it. I said Justin Jefferson's number 2 in receiving yards. Tyreek Hill's number 1. I believe he has 215 receiving yards after week 1.
Yep.
Out of his mind, he went. And then Justin Jefferson's hanging in number 2 with 150. So a substantial lead in passing yards.
I know.
And receiving yards.
We're going to talk more Dolphins and Chargers this upcoming week. They have incredible matchups that we both want to discuss. So let's move on to the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. The Packers still own the Bears. It seems nothing has changed in that regard. Jordan Love and the Packers won 38-20. I got to say, if this is the Jordan Love that we're going to get, I think the Packers are going to be fine this year.
Yeah, it seems like they're off to the races. So it's I like what I see out of Green Bay. Um, I'm gonna make a pretty bold prediction here that they might steal a wild card spot after watching that. That might be the NFC's seventh spot.
Hey, who knows, man? They might even get fifth or sixth, but hey, if they played like that, that's definitely going to be a playoff team. But let's move on to another team that I think is going to make the playoffs, and I know one of your favorite teams, the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, in an utter thrashing, 40-0, Sunday night primetime, in what was an absolute blowout. The game was over at the end of the first quarter. 40-0. What a game by Dallas. What a loss by the Giants.
It's simply unacceptable from the Giants. You're better than that. To have a 40-point blowout on week one, you've had 10 days or more to prepare. Just there is no excuse.
They've had a whole offseason to prepare, and they still didn't get it done.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions in New York. They have what looks to be an easy matchup next week against the Cardinals. Let's see how they do. But the Giants are the only team
that have not put a point up yet.
That have not put up a point up this entire season. So, but let's move on to the final game of this week, and that is the New York Jets getting it done against the Buffalo Bills, but at the biggest cost.
The biggest cost of them all.
The biggest injury. Aaron Rodgers out for the year, torn Achilles. 75 seconds on the field. It's Chris Paul, play lotto for the love of God. Like that was your bold prediction last week. What play fucking lotto, man.
I didn't think it was gonna happen that quick.
Neither
I thought
did
it was gonna happen in like 7-8 weeks, maybe. I thought at least he was gonna play maybe half a season, maybe 3/5 of a season. 75 seconds? Dude, you played 4 snaps. But I just one quick thing. If you want to just go back to watch those 4 snaps, 3 out of 4 of those snaps he was rushed, once he was sacked. In 2 sequences, you saw both tackles on opposite sides go for a cut block and miss and leave a man wide open to rip his head off.
Yeah.
So, a lot of problems on the offensive line for the Jets.
There's a lot of problems for them. Their playoff percentage went down 20%.
At least.
Yeah, they were, according to Vegas odds, they were a 68% chance to make it to the playoffs. Now they dropped to 44%. So
Jesus Christ.
It's a big loss, but I mean, granted, hey, good win for the Jets. Good luck for the rest of the year.
Right. Best of luck because, and again, especially for round 2 against the Bills, because you will not see this again.
Yeah, that was. We'll talk more about the Bills, but Jets had no right winning that game, but good on them that they did. So, with that being said, that is our Week 1 recap. So much has happened this past week, and there's so much to look forward to this upcoming week. But I want to start, and I want to talk about probably, at least for me, the biggest game of this upcoming weekend: the Ravens and the Bengals in Cincinnati. You mind if I start this, Chris Palmer?
Rivalry weekend starts with you. Let's go.
I know. It starts this weekend. And, man, I got to say, there's so much on my mind watching the Ravens this past... I'll start with the Ravens, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If there's ever such thing as a disappointing win, I kind of felt that on Sunday. I'm happy we won, but I felt like we were not as sharp as we could have been. Lamar Jackson was 17 for 22. Not too bad, 169 passing yards and an interception, no touchdown. 6 rushes for 68 yards. Okay, that's not too bad. His connection to Zay Flowers, it looked good. He was 9 receptions for 78 yards. That was solid. OBJ had only 2 receptions for 37. Nothing too crazy or anything like that. I just didn't feel that we were as sharp as we were on offense that we should have been. I feel like we could have put up, say, a 30 spot, but it just never materialized. And I wish that we did. I wish there was some kind of explosive play or something like that. Be like, man, I'm so looking forward to, like, it's going to be something to kind of burst the hope. and it just never happened. It was one of those games where it was a rainy day, it was very dreary, very physical. Everything was kind of on the ground, everything was there. And I was just like, I was waiting for something to happen, but nothing really explosive happened, which is fine. I'll take the win, but we do need to sharpen up on offense. I will say on defense, we look great. I think we look absolutely great, even despite losing Marcus Williams for the year, and Marlon Humphrey is still out with significant time. Roquan Smith, he's an absolute animal. He had 16 tackles, 8 solo, and 8 assisted. And he was an absolute unit on the field. He was everywhere. He just he reminds me of Luke Kuechly. Not so much Ray Lewis, but he reminds me of Luke Kuechly, where he can read the offense extremely well and fill in all the holes that he needs to. And he's not the the bulkiest middle linebacker, but man, is he the most important player on our defense. And we did not allow a single touchdown. I'm very happy for that. Just kind of held the Texans to field goals. I'm very happy for that. I like our defense. Our offense needs work. Now, I want to get to the Bengals side. The Bengals are. I'm very happy that they lost, but I don't. But obviously, this is not the Bengals that we're used to. Like, this game is not going to be what the Bengals are for the rest of the season. The Bengals are going to get bounced back. Joe Burrow is going to bounce back. I don't doubt that. Cleveland is just one of those teams that they just give them fits every time they play. And that's what you and we talked about last week when we were briefly making our picks. Like, they just give them fits every single time. Myles Garrett's a big handful. I will say a player that stood out to me watching that game was Greg Delpit, their other cornerback out to the opposite of Denzel Ward.
Okay.
He had 8 tackles, 7 solo, 1 assisted, and he was all over the field too. He is number 22 if I'm not mistaken. So he is a player to really keep your eye on for Cleveland. Greg Delpit. So with that being said, Bengals now are home. As much as the Browns give the Bengals fits, the Bengals give the Ravens fits, the Ravens give the Steelers fits, and the Steelers give the Browns. It's a cycle. It's just a big cycle in the AFC North. But it's to expect Joe Burrow to be passing for less than 100 yards just seems so ridiculous. And as much as I want it to happen, I don't think it will. Last year, Joe Burrow against the Steelers, he threw for 3 interceptions, and he did not look great. But then the following week, he bounced back. He was fine. So it's really tough because it's the first game, but it's not the only game for every team. So there's still a lot of season left. Man, I wish I was going to be watching this game. I will be away, but I wish I would be watching this game in particular.
Yeah, believe it or not, Bill Cowher said it the best, that the season's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy the process. Just enjoy it for what it is. People hit the panic button after week 1. In terms of the Ravens, when it comes to Lamar Jackson, yes, he had kind of a very good game. Your issue didn't lie with Lamar Jackson. It really never really does when you want to look for problems throughout your week 1. It seemed like your offensive line had jitters. Little 4 sacks.
Yeah.
Little 4 sacks, and one of them, one pressure from, it was Kevin Zeitler. I believe that's your center. He had
he's our guard.
Okay, he had a blocking assignment, and he misstepped, and he got taken away. He opened his shoulders. Lyman came in, and that's what forced the interception, was that sequence of him blowing his assignment.
Yeah.
So there was some miscues on your offensive line. So if there was something to look for improvement in, it would be cues in your offensive line going
Hmm.
into this week. Flipping over to the Bengals, of course, you have Joe Burrow, who did not finish the game. Pretty sure he did that last year too. They pulled him week 1.
No, because you guys went to overtime, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember. I could have sworn that he got pulled as well, but I could be
No,
wrong.
yeah, no, he completed the game, but he did not play well that game against you guys.
Right. So I do not expect him to be pulled ever again for the rest of the season. They have a lot of pursuit issues on defense. You know, since parting ways with Jesse Bates, their pursuit had, in my opinion, it looks a lot dulled, a lot more muffled.
Hmm.
They really, I saw one sequence in particular where it was a misdirection run. I don't remember who it was exactly. He was going up right through the tackles. He stopped and then misdirect, and it was like 6 or 7 different Bengals who could not stop their pursuit to catch him on the fly, and he got sideline speed and made a huge run for a first down.
Hmm.
Um, that was a big issue that I saw with the Bengals defense, was a lot of pursuit problems.
Yeah, their defense has problems stopping the run. Now, granted, Nick Chubb is a handful, and I think it was Nick Chubb that you're referring to with the misdirection run because he had, I think it was 16 carries for 109 yards or something like that. He had a big day, and as he does, he's Nick Chubb. He's probably one of the 2 best running backs in the league right now. So,
Agreed.
um, with that being said, the Ravens do have the capabilities to really make the defense score. Because if what you're saying is true, where they can't quite pursue a rusher, the Ravens, what they do is we still run the ball. We still run the ball very effectively. It's running back by committee, and obviously now without J.K. Dobbins, it's going to be more Justice Hill and Gus Edwards,
I like
and
Justice
still
Hill.
Justice Hill's great, and obviously Lamar still going to be running the ball as well. So I think if the Ravens are going to win this game, it needs to be on the ground. And I wouldn't force it through the air because like you said, if there's a lot of miscues on say pass protection, you need that run block to be supreme to make up for that.
100%.
And the Ravens can do it. The last 2 games that we played against the Bengals, which was week 17 and then also that wild card game, we still could have won those games without Lamar, without our best player. And it's obviously that wild card game was right at the goal line, 17-17, and Tyler Huntley fumbles it, and then they're gone.
Right.
And Sam Hubbard just gets it for a 98-yard score. But I, the fact that we're still in that game proves to me it's like, look, we can still go toe to toe with the Bengals, even though they are again one of the best teams in the AFC. And I hate to say it, but they just are. Even though they are still one of the best teams in the AFC, they're not unbeatable. And I think that that's one thing to look at when we talk about some of these best teams in football, in the entire league. No one team is perfect. Every team has their weakness to it. It's just a matter of what it is and what can you exploit out of it. Like the Chiefs, for instance, obviously, it seems that their biggest weakness this year is their connection to their receivers. They are just dropping balls. For the Bills, it's turnovers by Josh Allen. For the Bengals, it's sometimes you just can't stop the run, and and the game just gets is very difficult. So there's a lot of every team is not perfect, but it's just finding that perfect mismatch against your opponent.
Well, yeah, in that sense, it's a game of chess. You
Yes.
have to It's a game of flaws. It's every team is flawed, like you said. I 100% agree with you. There is no perfect team. Even the perfect team lost in the Super Bowl because it was flawed. So you can be perfect all year and then just walk up to a team that just knows your flaws and wins.
Yep.
So the best thing you can do is just try to hide your flaws for as long as possible. But in week one, it seems like a lot of teams highlighted their problems. This past weekend, a lot of teams highlighted their problems. I'm not saying the Ravens are one of them. I feel like that all the miscues on offense were an anomaly. Usually their offensive line is very strong. I'm talking more so on the Bengals side with their lack of pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And over recent time, we've known them to be lethal, but history goes is Bengals are fucking ass. Let's be real here. So it's only been the past couple years where it's like all heads turned into Cincinnati. Once Joe Burrow was drafted, that's when it was off to the races.
Yep.
But every year before that, it was the Bengals are at the bottom of the division. Their defense is terrible. They have one or two good pieces. Who are the Bengals without Joe Burrow?
The Bengals, they're probably the Bengals with Andy Dalton at that point.
Right. At that point, they are the middle of the road team they have always been. And they're going to have their main flaw will always and forever be their defense, I feel. They could have had gold if they kept Jesse Bates. I feel. And
And Von Bell.
and Von Bell. The duo between the two of them could have been lethal. But I understand you had to cut ties where you had to fit Joe Burrow's embarrassingly large contract.
These contracts are ridiculous, man. They're so ridiculous.
They're embarrassing.
Only in America could we just give so much money to athletes. Like, just so much money, man. Like,
they're embarrassingly big.
These players make more than some countries in in parts of the world, man. It's disgusting. But man, I will say I'm really looking forward to this game, and that's why I really want to talk about it, because if the Ravens win, get a 2-0 lead in the division, that's big. That's really big. If the Bengals win, then they kind of get back on track to what we expect them to be.
Right.
So I think this is going to be a great game, and I'm really looking forward to this game in particular. But I do want to move on to some other games that we're looking forward to, and I want to shift gears into the NFC side, to the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons this weekend. This is going to be a good game, I feel.
This is my game of the week right here.
So Paul, like, typically you and I, we talk earlier in the week and we pick which games we want to talk about. You wanted to pick this game.
Yes.
Now I'll start you off, man. Like, what about this game made you feel that this is going to be the game of the week?
Well, this is the second time that I've wanted to talk about Green Bay now that Aaron Rodgers is gone in a row. So last week was the precursor, and now from moving forward, it looks like they're off to the races.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Jordan Love answer all the questions. Is he the franchise guy? And from the looks of it, he is 100% fitting the bill to be the franchise guy in Green Bay. I love it. And same thing in Atlanta. Desmond Ridder played a very, very clean game. These are two young quarterbacks that are in a very good position to succeed, from what it seems like, at least, because especially in Atlanta's situation, they seem to have turned the tables on their defense. When it comes to their scores, I think it was all four of their scores, including the field goal, came off of a turnover from defense. So their defense was locking down week one. So Falcons may have turned over a new leaf. Packers are off to the races as a young stud underdog team, taking the deep breath that was getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Sorry for the injury, but now they get to move. And again, they're moving full steam ahead. And it seems like the Falcons are moving pretty full steam as well. So it's going to be pretty electric, I think, this game. There's going to be two very young, fast teams coming right at each other.
And I think the key word there is young. These teams are very young in the sense. I want to talk about Atlanta real quick. Their 3 touchdowns came off of rookies, 2 from Tyler Algier and 1 from Bijan. And I will say, just to give a shout out to Jesse Bates in Atlanta, who seems to be fitting there perfectly with 2 interceptions this in week 1. There's a reason we talk about these guys, man. These guys change games. Like, these guys impact games. And that's why I think for the Bengals, that was a big loss for Jesse Bates, but a huge pickup for Atlanta, man. He plays the deepest of the deep, and from there, you were able to score off of those turnovers and turn it into points. And they won convincingly 24-10. And it was a great game by Atlanta. I think they have the young playmakers to really do it. Now, granted, they didn't give Drake London a shot at all, but they didn't really need to, because Atlanta, as much of in the past decade as we thought of like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Roddy White and all these guys, Atlanta's now a run team. They run the ball a lot, and they're very good at running the ball a lot. And it was such a great sight to see, because like now they're changing who they are. They're really leaning into Arthur Smith and that coach and his philosophy of, we're going to just take it, like, we're going to kind of control the game, control the clock, nothing glamorous, nothing sexy. We're just going to keep it going. And like you said, the word that you described for Desmond Ridder is he played clean. He went 15 for 18 for, what was it,
169 or something like that.
Yes,
maybe less.
It wasn't anything ridiculous, but it didn't need it. It didn't need to be.
Right, he got 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and that was it. That's all you need.
That's it. That's all you need. Sometimes you just need someone to just, be a game manager.
Don't lose.
To me, I'm not sure if Desmond Ridder's the guy in Atlanta, but I do want to see a full season with him. But the same could be said with Jordan Love. I want to see a full season of Jordan Love. If we're going to get Jordan Love from this past Sunday, where he's throwing 3 touchdowns to his receivers, yeah, I want to see that. I want to see that guy, because he's going to be great in the NFC North, especially with, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers there. It's like, oh, it's going to be the Vikings. Oh, it's going to be the Packers. And no, now the Lions are here. The Packers with Jordan Love are here. I mean, granted, what are the odds that a franchise can land back-to-back-to-back franchise guys? It's like from Favre to Rodgers and possible Love. Now,
seemingly Jordan Love too now, right?
I'm not there just yet to declare him that.
That's why I say seemingly.
Yeah, we need more there. I need to see this season. I need to see what he's capable of. But I'm very optimistic for the Packers, if that's the Jordan Love that we're going to get. And the Packers, too, are very young. They have a lot of young talent. They have Romeo Doubs. They have Christian Watson. They still have Aaron Jones. Granted, I think he sprained his hamstring.
He had a strain in his hamstring on the touchdown run, but he didn't come back, but he says he feels all right. However, I want to give a shout out to A.J. Dillon as well, their number 2 running back.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty nasty duo behind Jordan Love to give him that support.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, too, is LaFleur is not going to back down from the run either. And I think he's still a great coach. I would love to see what he can do with all this young talent. And that's the thing. That's what's so great about this game, is that these teams are young and the potential for greatness is there. They have the talent. It's just, can you win these games? And I think in both of their respective divisions, it's very possible. Who knows? Maybe the Packers take the division. Maybe the Falcons take the division. Maybe one of these teams is a wild card and goes to Green Bay or goes to Atlanta, and we get this rematch again. That'd be great.
That'd be sick.
that's all speculation now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's this Sunday. Which team can come away with the win? It doesn't need to be sexy. It doesn't need to be anything glamorous. Who who's the better team? Who's going to win? Which young team is going to take this win?
I love this game.
I know the future is bright for both the Packers and Atlanta based on last Sunday, but like you said, the season is a marathon, not a sprint. So
Correct.
there's still a lot of season left, but this is a game to watch out for. I want to move on to back to the AFC with what looks to be another electric matchup, pun intended, with the Chargers and the Titans. So, Chris Palmer, tell me, start us off, man. What about this game are you looking forward to?
See, had you asked me last year, I would have had a lot more to be excited about. And that's coming from me. You know, am I excited to see this game? Yes. Am I excited to see Derrick Henry play? Yes. Am I excited to see the Chargers potentially blow another fourth quarter lead? Absolutely the fuck not. I don't understand why they have such an issue closing out games. We spoke about it week 1. We spoke about it to nauseum last year. We spoke about it to nauseum the year prior when we started seeing some magic in LA. As soon as it became an issue, it was what we started talking about, and it has not gone away.
Mm-hmm.
They have trouble closing games, and Titans are a foot-to-throat team where if they go up on you, you're not coming back. There is no comeback against the Titans unless you're the fucking Chiefs because you come back against everybody. But they're one of those foot-to-throat teams where you can't give them an inch or they're going to take everything from you.
Mm-hmm.
I wish this was last year because it was so much more of an exciting game because of how much more, I guess, charge the Chargers had, no pun intended. Like they had more electricity to them because they still could potentially close a game out. Now it's like you have all expectations that they won't.
Mm-hmm. I love the wordplay. Please don't be shy of puns here. So, yeah, it's a running theme. There's just some teams where it's just a running theme of theirs that they can't do this, they can't do that. Chargers just can't close games. I will say this: the Titans can't seem to get out of their own way,
Again,
and it's with Ryan Tannehill. At this point, he threw 3 interceptions last game against the Saints. Now, granted, the Saints' defense is solid. They're not anything to joke over. They're a very solid team. Oops, sorry,
careful.
but sorry, I'm getting excited here. But 3 interceptions, that's big in a one possession game where the scores are low. That's what cost them the divisional game against the Bengals a couple years ago. Another 3 interception game by Ryan Tannehill. Now, I'm starting to think that maybe Tannehill time is over at this point. And
Maybe?
I'm starting to think that, maybe we'll get the chance to see either Malik Willis or Will Levis start for the Titans. Because for Tannehill, that's simply unacceptable at this point. You've been in the league since, what was it, 2011.
Right, this is going to your 12th year.
This is your 12th year. You are a vet in this league. And you come out and you throw 3 interceptions against a Saints defense. Now, again, the Saints are good, but
They're not great.
no. And I will say this, though. Mike Vrabel, I don't know what you were thinking, too. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tannehill had, I think, 44 attempts. If I'm not mistaken, he threw the ball a lot, where it's like, no, you need to feed Derrick Henry. This man only had like 67 rushing yards the whole game.
Yeah, I don't understand that one bit.
The Titans, you know what you are, man. You're not a passing team. You're a running team.
North-South running team.
You're a north-south running team, yes. Whereas the Chargers, they're not. They are a more balanced team with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams,
Austin
Austin
Eckler.
Eckler, who had Austin Eckler. I think he had just about 150 scrimmage yards, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a big game, and I expect him to keep having a big game because he's Austin Eckler. He's one of the best. He's one of the best running backs in the league. He's one of the best all-purpose backs in the league. And
100%.
whereas Derrick Henry is, I mean, you and I would agree that he's still the best running back in the league, but he's not an all-purpose back. He doesn't catch outside of the backfield. He's a north-south runner. That's it. And the
That's what
key
he
to
does.
stopping him is at the line of scrimmage. And I fear that this could be a game that Derrick Henry goes off on. I think that this is one of those games where he has the capability to go off this game because now, as much as you and I like the Chargers defense with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, they were not present in that game against the Dolphins. For both Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, they had a combined 3 tackles,
Oh,
which
Lord.
is unacceptable by those
100%.
guys. You need to get him on the ground, man. I mean, granted, you can do that. You can do that against Tannehill better than Tua. Tua's a little bit more mobile. He's a little bit more fresh, and Tua is that guy. He simply is. But Tannehill is not, and you need to really eat that game. The Chargers' defense is just their biggest Achilles heel, and we saw that in the playoff game this past year, where it's like they can score,
Right.
but they can't keep the lead, and it's so killer. And I think that you come into Tennessee this upcoming week, and if your defense is not on point, Derrick Henry will run through you. But
I won.
at the same point, if they're looking to pass more than they're feeding Henry, maybe they can be opportunistic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. If Mike Vrabel decides to do what he's apparently been doing, which is move away from the run game for some odd reason, I don't understand it. I haven't understood it since last year when he made the comment about Malik Willis. When he was in, he's saying, I wish he threw more because he was a scrambling quarterback. Malik Willis is he's the new edition of football where it's West Coast read option quarterbacks. It's what it is. Read option quarterbacks is the way of the world now. Finding a pocket passing quarterback is Will Levy. Will Levis is your pocket passing quarterback. You want someone to be a pocket passing quarterback who will not lose you games because he won't stretch his leg out. That's Will Levis. But if you want someone who can probably, they might take a risk or two, they might try to run around, but if they could run around, fly around, keep it exciting, it's Malik Willis.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. It's time to move on from Ryan Tannehill. I believe it's been time to move on from Ryan Tannehill since last year.
I know you were the first to say that too, and I think now, based on he couldn't stay healthy last year and his poor performance in Week 1, I'm just thinking for the Titans, just for their sake, man, they really need to kind of start planning for the future at this point. And the ironic part is, you have the future presently
Right
on your
there.
roster.
Right.
On your roster, it's one of those two. You just gotta, whichever one you're willing to invest in. And I fear that it's probably going to be Will Levis a little bit more than Malik Willis. And Malik Willis, he just needs more time on the field, man. I really think he can do it. But Will Levis is the big unknown. He's the big stud. He's the big stud with the big arm. So for coaches, it's like, oh man, if he can toss it 70 yards down the field, that's my guy. So
right.
But yeah, man, I'm excited for this game, but both teams are going to be their biggest, worst enemy.
I agree 100%. And if the Titans decide to be their worst enemy, the Chargers may pull away because the coach at least knows if it ain't broke, don't fix it in LA.
Yeah. So that's the Chargers and Titans. I want to move on to another divisional rivalry matchup, and that is the Patriots and the Dolphins.
Mm.
Oh man, that's going to be a great one. That's the Sunday night primetime game. And you mind if I start this one?
Have at it.
Guys, stop doubting Tua. For the love of God. I mean, I said it earlier here, man, but this man threw 466 yards week one, 250 to Tyreek Hill and 78 to Waddle. This man, Tyreek Hill is just a cheat code. You put him one-on-one with anyone, he's going to cook him. And I don't know if coaches realize that, but you need to just double this man at every point. Like, have the safety there at all times. He's just going to cook your man one-on-one. He's just too fast. He's the fastest wide receiver in the league. And it's like, yes, another year goes by, and he's another year older. But he's not slower by any means. He's still the same cheetah. And he's still going to cook people. And so, but Tua, man, he makes the right decisions, man. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Yeah, the 1 interception wasn't good, but, he was still able to put his team in a position to win the game. And I think that that's what's most important about it, is that if Tua is on the field and in the game, you have a chance to win. And no matter the odds against him, we saw it last year against the Bills the first go-around in Miami. Yeah, when he got his head banged up the first time. But he kept the Dolphins in that game. Everyone, and I think you and I included, we picked the Bills to win that game because the Bills were this supposed juggernaut coming into Miami. But no, Dolphins were like, no, we're gonna hold you, we're gonna keep you down, we're gonna take advantage, we're gonna win this game, and they did. And going into Buffalo, now they could have won that game, and the weather was just against them. The momentum was against them. The snowballs were being pelted in their face by the fans. But it was still a 3-possession game. They could have won that. And in the wild card too, without Tua, they could have beaten the Bills too. And it's just one of those minutes. It's like, Tua, you just need to stay on the field, because if you're on the field, you can be great. You can be one of the best quarterbacks in this league if you can give us a full 17-game season.
Tua in a 17-game season is something to behold. I want to see that in the worst way. I've been saying it since the kid was drafted. The kid is special.
Yeah, you and I both, absolutely.
100%. You and I both. There's a reason why he played in front of Justin Fields. Nick Saban isn't a dummy.
No, Justin Fields was Ohio State. You're talking Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, I'm sorry. There's a reason why he played in front of Jalen Hurts. Nick Saban isn't a dummy. He knows special when he sees it, and he had a full roster of special. And look at Jalen Hurts. Dude special. Devonta Smith, he's special. Tua is special. The doubters of Tua really need to stop. They just need to stop. The one issue that I see with guarding Tyreek with 2 people is on the other side, is Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are the fastest team ever assembled, with some of the greatest footwork any receivers have ever done in this game. You look at the route running of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and then you have in the backfield, you have Raheem Mostert.
Mm-hmm.
The Dolphins are form-fitted to make a deep playoff run if Tua stays healthy.
Yep.
Him for a full season, this may be the Dolphins' division to win now that Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Yeah. And, I mean, granted, you and I didn't put much stock in the Jets prior to even Rodgers getting on there. But obviously, the biggest competitor for the Dolphins is the Bills. And obviously, getting that win over the Chargers, and the Bills lost to the Jets is huge for Miami. It's huge Because the Jets, let's be honest, they're not really big threats to them in the division. But obviously, much like we talked about, teams just giving fits for other teams and stuff like that, the Patriots do give fits for Miami. But it's weird because it's in Foxborough. When it's in Miami, it's all Miami. But Belichick knows how to coach this. He knows schematically how to go against the Dolphins, but he doesn't necessarily have the talent to do so. Now, before I move on to New England, I do want to say I want to give a shout out to Javon Holland for Miami Dolphins. He is their safety. He is their strong safety, number 8. He had, I believe, 8 tackles, 7 solo tackles in this game against the Chargers. He was all over the field on that defense. So, number 8, Javon Holland, is a name to watch out for in Miami on defense. I know we talk about their offense a lot, and rightfully so. Like, their offense is phenomenal, and it might be the best in the league. But their defense is very solid too, and I do want to see how their defense plays out over time. Now, I want to go to New England real quick. New England could have won that game against Philly, which is so crazy to think about because Philly is obviously Philadelphia. They're probably one of, if not the best team in the NFC. But they were very mortal in Foxborough. The Patriots had more passing yards, no more rushing yards. They had the same amount of first downs. They had, I think, just a little bit more time of possession. Obviously, that's because they tried to make the comeback at the end. But all in all, New England, if they can play their game, which is 30 points or less, strong defense, big running game, it's possible. But I think what Belichick was overthinking was letting Mac Jones throw for 54 pass attempts this game
Unfucking real.
to 25 rushing attempts.
Who does he think he has?
Tom Brady, apparently. But
25 rushing attempts is not Tom Brady.
No. 54 passing attempts.
No, you said 25 rushing attempts.
Yeah, 25
with
rushing
Mac Jones.
attempts. Yeah. Well, not with Mac Jones, but just in total with the offense.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like Mac Jones passed 54 times this game. And I think he was like 33 for 54 or something like that.
Okay.
And then between their 3 to 4 rushers, they had 25 rushing attempts.
Oh my God.
So Bill Bellies needs to find a balance right now, and obviously Mac Jones, he's a solid quarterback. He's another one of those Alabama quarterbacks. He was right in the quarterback room.
He was in that trio.
He was in that trio of Hurts, Tua, and Mac. So he knows Alabama football. He knows, and much like Nick Saban sees special, and he wouldn't recruit Mac Jones if he didn't think he was special. And Mac Jones he's good, he can be great, but he'll never be as great as Tua can be. I don't think we'll ever see Mac Jones throw for 466 yards. He just doesn't have the team around him that's capable. He has what? Devontae Parker? Now Juju? You're better off leaning on that running game because that running game is going to help you. That defense is also going to help you too. Because Matt Judon, watch out for him. He loves primetime games, and it's probably the biggest regret of the Ravens to not pay this man because he fucking gets double-digit sacks every year.
Still can't believe you guys did not pay him.
I know, and I was pounding on the door for them to pay this man because he is that guy. And now, granted, he's doing great things in New England, but New England's they are not a fast team. They are not a sexy team. They're always a methodical team. If the Patriots are going to beat you, it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. It's going to be an 8-play drive. It's going to be a 9-play. It's going to be a 10-play drive to get the win. And if that defense is able to kind of slow down Miami, the Patriots can be in this game. But the key word is slow down. You can't stop Tyreek. You can't stop Waddle. You can't stop Mostert. You can stop one of them. You can't stop all of them. And I'm just, being that this is in New England, it's going to be very interesting. If it was in Miami, I think it would be a very one-sided game. But being that it's in New England in September too, it's not cold yet either. This could be a very interesting game to watch. And it's a Sunday night prime time, so we have to keep our eyes on this one.
Yeah, this game is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one, but let's move on to our last game that we wanted to discuss. And that is your Pittsburgh Steelers Monday night against the Cleveland Browns. Chris Palmer, I'll let you start with this.
All right. Am I frustrated about week 1? 100%. We had our first home opener in 8 years. This past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost by fucking 28.
23. You 30-27. Oh, sorry, 30-7. Sorry,
30-7. Sorry, 30-7. It was 20-0 in the second quarter at home.
Ridiculous.
I feel like the word of the day here is fucking unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of unacceptable things that happened there on that Steelers game.
Well, you saw the stat, right, where it was
1 yard.
Yeah. At one point, they had the 49ers had 199 yards to the Steelers 1 yard.
1. And this is what I was saying at the end of last year was my concern for productivity and offense based on playbook because of Matt Canada. I'm very concerned with Matt Canada's playbook. I was concerned last year because it was very conservative and predictable. Rolling into this year, I had the same concerns and, the same predictability and the same conservatism happened. We had a couple of really good deep balls thrown. Kenny Pickett, he can throw the ball. Man, he has a really, really good arm. We have a bunch of weapons to go to. Now we don't have Deontay Johnson, so everyone's going to have to move over a little bit. Mm-hmm. But we still have some weapons to throw to. The one thing I do want to stress is that we should not hit the panic button just yet on the Steelers. A lot of people, like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Mm-hmm. And in this case, a lot of people are hitting the panic button with the Steelers. Oh, what's going on? What's wrong? What's here? What's there? What's it? The 49ers are prepared for a fucking Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
The Steelers have hopes to make the playoffs this year. Those are two totally different realms of ability when it comes to a team. So you got to take it with a grain of salt who we played week 1. We played the single most versatile team in the league with the number 3 receiver in top 5 with Brandon Ayuk. Mm-hmm. Christian McCaffrey was an absolute freak that game. He went off. Mm-hmm. Hats off to San Francisco. They played an absolute great game. Damn near perfect game.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, I am not hitting the panic button, man. Was it a tough loss? 100%. Is this a great shake-off game? Oh, it's going to feel good. Oh, it's going to feel good to beat up on Cleveland.
Oh, man. Well, I hope you guys do. But it's not going to be that easy.
No, never said it was going to be easy.
Especially with no Cam Hayward to stop Nick Chubb. That's going to be a very big loss on your defense. TJ Watt played, right?
TJ Watt played. He actually got 3 sacks that game. Okay. And he broke the all-time Steelers franchise sack record.
My God, man.
With 80.5.
So he's trying to break his 22 and a half sacks last year and
Right. He's trying to break the all-time record, which is Michael Strahan's 22 and a half. He tied it.
he tied it. Yeah.
Um,
He's off to a great start too. So
correct. And he just broke, it was James Harrison's record of 80 and a half
Mhm.
all time. And he did that in week 1.
Which is good too. And I think going against Cleveland primetime, this should have been your week 1 game. I feel that you guys kind of fare a little bit better against Cleveland than you do San Fran. Again, San Fran's just on a whole different level than you guys, man. And again, like you said, your expectations were their expectation is the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl. Your expectation is to make the playoffs.
Right.
So 2 totally different expectations. Cleveland, I don't know what their expectation is this year, but I think they expect to be better than last year. Deshaun Watson, and they're obviously very leaning on Deshaun Watson. And when he came back last year after his suspension, he went 3 for 3. Okay. If you stretch that out for the full season, you can go 8-9, 9-8, right? Possible. And for Cleveland, that's very probable. But one thing that does concern me about your offense is much like the Patriots offense that we just discussed, there was no balance. And there's no excuse for that. Even, yes, you guys were in the hole very early in that game, but you guys have no excuse for that imbalance on offense. And what do I mean by that? So Kenny Pickett threw the ball 46 times that game against San Fran, right? Now, granted, yes, you guys were playing from behind, but do you guys know how many times you rushed the ball or attempted to rush the ball?
Pretty
10
sure it was
times.
under 20. Yeah.
10 times. That is unacceptable. That is so unacceptable. To only run the ball 10 times, and one of them was from Kenny Pickett. I think probably on a scramble. So it counted as a run. Look, you gotta run the ball, man. And like I know, like this, we've been a broken record. You and I, like whenever the Steelers just start off, where it's like they think that they got the Steelers of old, where they can just fling the ball, and we tell Mike Tomlin, like, run the ball, run the ball.
But that's the thing. It's not Mike Tomlin. It's Matt Canada.
But Mike
it's
Tomlin,
his playbook. It's
but Mike
Matt
Tomlin
Canada's
has
playbook.
the final say. That's the thing.
Right, but it's Matt Canada's playbook. He can only search so far to look for these plays. You know, there's only so many run plays in the playbook.
And that's the thing, though. Like, I know. Believe me, Steelers need to get rid of Matt Canada, right? But Mike Tomlin needs to be the one to make that decision. And so long as Matt Canada is still on the Steelers, Mike Tomlin is culpable for the failure of offense by the Steelers.
So long as the Rooneys believe in Matt Canada stays.
No,
that's
so long
the
as Mike
unfortunate
Tomlin believes in Matt Canada, he stays.
It's the Rooneys that believe in him. It's the Rooneys came out in January and said, we believe in Matt Canada because it helps his progress with Kenny Pickett. Because they came out and said that.
The Rooneys like stability. You guys have only had 3 head coaches since 1969.
Right.
So
we don't fire coaches. It's just what happens.
You guys don't want to leave off coaches, but in this case, Matt Canada's not a coach. He's an offensive coordinator.
He's a coordinator, right.
He's a coordinator. Mike Tomlin, so long as he has him on his staff, you're going to have these games where it's so disappointing and so painful to watch, where it's like, you and I, we both picked the Steelers to win that game. Obviously, yes, we were wrong in that prediction. But, man, we did not think it was going to be that bad. We didn't think it was going to be a horrible game to watch, an absolute blowout. We thought, like, the Steelers would at least put up, say, 20 on the board. And that seemed fair. That seemed justified. But to only rush the ball 10 times
ridiculous.
Is pathetic.
Ridiculous.
I need to see the Steelers run the ball more. And I sound like a broken record because this is the 3rd year in a row that we're doing this podcast, and it's the 3rd year since out the gate for the Steelers where we're saying, run the goddamn ball. Just run
You
it.
got to run the
Because
fucking ball.
you got to at least try to, because it's going to give you that balance. It's going to help that Kenny Pickett in the passing game if it's like a defense is like, oh, Najee's here. Personally, I'm starting to question if Najee's the guy, because I last year I saw a lot more good out of Jalen Warren than I did out of Najee, and Najee had a good rookie year. He had an okay second year. I'm starting to see this might be a decline for Najee. And I need to see more of him, but I can't see more of him if they don't run the goddamn ball.
Right. You can't really call it a decline if he's only fucking touching the ball 7 times in a game.
Exactly. So, and he only ran 6 times that game, and it's
Right.
just like the Steelers, man. A primetime game against Cleveland. You guys had a Thursday night game last year against Cleveland, and Cleveland smacked you in Cleveland. Now you're in Pittsburgh, week 2. This is your back-to-back home game. I need to see you guys run the ball more. I need to see it happen, and it will open it up more for George Pickens, for I don't know who your second string tight end is with
if Pat Fryermuth doesn't play, it would go to Pickens and Connor Hayward.
Connor Hayward, yeah. So I need to see more of that rushing game for the Steelers. And believe me, I think you're on the same page with me on this. It's like you need that balance.
Right. You got to balance it out. And there's absolutely no there's a lot of things that were unacceptable during that game. That was 100% one of them. There's no reason having both Jalen Warren and Najee Harris in the backfield that you should have under 20 rushes a game.
Yeah.
You should have 10 apiece at minimum.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. 10 apiece at minimum. Drop Kenny Pickett's passes down to 35.
Yeah.
He goes 23 for 35. That's a good game.
That's a great game.
That's
and
12. That's 12 drops.
He doesn't need to be sexy. That's the thing. Is like he doesn't need to be Big Ben. He doesn't need to be. He just needs to be himself, and that's like just managing the game. Like that's the thing in this league is like you don't need to be spectacular. Even Mahomes this past Super Bowl, he only threw for 183 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's nothing crazy, but it was all the little passes. Nothing really big, nothing sexy. It was just take what's open. And that's the thing is like Kenny Pickett's like, believe me, Cleveland's defense, it's not going to be easy as you think it is on Monday, because Myles Garrett, he's a dog. He's going to go there. You got Greg Delpit, who is an underlooked cornerback in the league. You got Denzel Ward, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And it's going to be a very physical game. AFC North games are always physical. So, as much as I want you guys to win, it's not going to be an easy game on Monday.
No, I 100% agree. This game is going to be tough, and it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a real fun game.
It's going to be a great shake-off game.
Yes.
From, like you said in the beginning of this podcast, for years, it was Ravens, Steelers punching up on the Browns and the Bengals. Unfortunately, we have now bred one of the strongest divisions in the league. Yeah. But with that happening, we have bred some of the greatest head-to-head two-off games in the year that happened.
Yeah.
So I'm always excited for the Steelers-Browns games now.
Oh, yeah, because you know what it is every team, we beat each other up to be better. And that's
Correct.
The thing. Now we're at a point in the AFC North where, honestly, 1 to 2 games makes a huge difference. And that's why if you guys win, and I hope you guys win, because I hope we take care of Cincinnati too.
Right.
But if you guys win and Cincinnati wins, right, then it's 1-1 across the board. Then it's even.
It's an even slate, right?
But obviously, I'm selfish and I want the Ravens to go 2-0. So, but
obviously, right.
But with that being said, AFC North rivalry, man, I'm glad we were able to talk Bengals, Cincy, and Browns, Steelers in this episode. Seems like an AFC North edition, but it was a great episode. So with that being said, let's move on to make our picks for the week. So Chris Palmer, are you ready for this?
Yes, sir. So for the Thursday night game, Minnesota and Philadelphia, we got.
Okay, who you got? That's the name of this segment. It's who you got, Chris Palmer. And you know who I got? I got the team that can play in prime time. I'm taking the Eagles.
Yeah, no, you won't.
If this was
You
a
won't.
1 o'clock game, I would be very inclined to take the Vikings. But it's a prime time game. I'm taking the Eagles.
Yeah, you won't see me going for the Vikings at night. I'm gonna go with the Eagles as well. Packers and Falcons, my game of the week. Who you
Packers
got?
and Falcons. Oh man, you know what? I I can go. You can make the argument for either team, man. It looks good. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Atlanta, man. I think their offense. I like teams that run the ball a little bit more than passing, and I love that they have explosive playmakers, rookie playmakers in Tyler Algier and Bijan. You haven't really heard much of Kyle Pitts. He's not really.
Kind of
He's kind of
drifting into nothing.
yeah. He's kind of drifting into nothing. But man, I like the way that Atlanta attacks the ball. It's nothing sexy, but it's an efficient game.
No, I'm gonna put my hat in Green Bay, man. I feel like that Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon duo is. I feel like I'm surprised that you didn't go with Green Bay because of that run game in itself.
I don't have much faith in Dylan, but I love
Okay.
Aaron Jones. But that is a nasty duo though.
Moving on to Vegas and the Bills.
Ooh. Give me Buffalo, man. I think they could bounce back.
I'm gonna give benefit to the Raiders. I think they're gonna go 2-0 on this one.
I knew
I would have played devil's advocate on this one,
I
man.
knew you were going with the Raiders.
I would have played devil's advocate on this one. I'm
That's
gonna go
just
with the Raiders.
team right there.
Ravens Bengals.
Please.
You better.
Of course I'm going with the Ravens
No,
on
I'm
this
saying
one.
you better win.
I mean, I pray to fucking God we do.
I'm gonna go with Ravens as well, but that J.K. Dobbins injury is gonna really hurt.
Yeah, it really is. I wouldn't be surprised if we signed back Mr. Fumbles back onto the active roster.
Seattle and Detroit.
Oh man. Now
Does
when they
Seattle
played
bounce back?
when they played last year, they had one of the greatest games in a long time. It was a shootout between Geno Smith and
Didn't we
and
talk
Jared
that
Goff.
game?
No, I don't think we talked that
Oh.
game, but it was like a 48-45 game in Detroit. I'm going to go with Detroit because I still have faith and stock in them. But don't get me wrong, I still think Seattle can compete in the NFC.
Yeah, no, definitely in my hopes in the Lions for this one, but this one's going to be a pretty interesting game. I almost wanted to talk this game going in.
I don't
But
blame
yeah, but Lions going in.
Mm-hmm.
Colts Texans.
Oh man.
CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson.
I know. Give me Houston.
Yeah.
I think they played well enough against the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens are a different tier than them. I like CJ Stroud a little bit more, and I think that they actually will score touchdowns instead of field goals this time around. So I'll take Houston.
Fuck it. Give me the Colts. Coin flip for the Colts.
Flip a coin.
Yeah, this one, they're both 0-1. You know, they're both rookie quarterbacks still trying to make a name. This could go either way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chiefs Jags.
Chiefs Jags, man.
Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got a lot of home games that for teams that they want to be home against. Oh man, this is tough. I almost wanted to talk this game. Who you got, Chris Palmer? I want to see where you're feeling.
You see, it's really good. It's going to come down to if Travis Kelce plays.
He's expected to.
Chiefs.
You going Chiefs?
Yeah. Sorry, Mike.
I feel like I could flip a coin for this one either way.
This is a coin flip game. This is going to come down to the final possession.
Yeah, man. I'll go with the Jags
You're
on
going to play the
this.
devil's advocate on that one?
Reason being is because one thing I saw out of Jacksonville last week against the Colts was I saw resiliency. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that in a team where it's even though they were down, they weren't out. And obviously the Chiefs we see that time and time and time again. But it's seen that their offense was a neutral for Detroit. And I think Jacksonville is a little bit better than Detroit. Maybe not by much, but by a little bit. I'm probably going to go against my better judgment, but I'll take the Jags on this one.
This should be an interesting game as well. Moving on to the Bears and the Bucks in Tampa.
Man,
This game's going to be pretty cool too.
I didn't see the film for Tampa, but the fact that their defense only kept Minnesota at 17 points, I thought was very impressive. I didn't get a chance to see Baker Mayfield or really look at the stats. This is one of those teams that just I didn't really do too much homework on for them because we weren't really talking about them. But I'll take Tampa. I'll take Tampa just
All
to
right.
shake it up, shake and bake, baby, shake and bake.
No, I'm going to go Chicago on this one.
Damn,
You
we're
know,
split a lot of this.
we are split this week. Although they lost to the Packers, man, they played tough. You know, they went 10 rounds with Green Bay.
They did. They really did.
They absolutely played tough, really good football. So I feel like they might be able to get one over on the Bucks. Chargers and Titans.
Give me the Chargers, man. I still like them. I don't like their defense, but I like their offense. And if they can score 30, I don't think the Titans have the capability to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Ryan Tannehill has another 30-point game in his career. I don't.
No.
That's the unfortunate truth, and that's even with Derrick Henry in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
Giants Cardinals. Do the Giants score their first touchdown or put their first points on the board?
I'll give it to the Giants on this one.
Okay.
If it's against Dallas again, like I ain't taking them against division rivals, but against Arizona, this is one of those games you could probably win. You probably should win. I'll give it to the G-men.
This is one of those games where if you lose this, what is actually going wrong right now?
Then that's worthy of discussing.
Right. I'll give it to the Giants, but it's like watching intently. Niners and the Rams.
Give me the Niners. Kyle Shanahan just knows how to play against Sean McVay.
100% give me 49ers as well. Jets and the Cowboys.
Give me the Cowboys. That Dallas defense is so far the best in the league right now. And against Zach Wilson, against that offensive line, it's going to be a long day for the Jets. So give me Dallas.
It's going to be a long day and a long beginning to an even longer season for the Jets.
Yeah.
Give me the Cowboys. Then we got Washington and Denver.
Who you got, Chris Palmer? Who you got? What coin you flipping for this?
Give me the Commanders. They're just better coached. I'll take Ron Rivera over Sean Payton. And that's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
At this stage in the game, at least, I'll take Ron Rivera over Sean Payton.
If it seems like we're getting the Denver from last year, and I gave Denver a lot of benefit of the doubt last year, give me Washington this game. I don't have much stock in Washington, but if at least I know what to kind of expect from Denver this year. It could not score 18 points against the Raiders, and if they did, they would have won. So,
moving on to Sunday night prime time, Dolphins and the Patriots.
give me the Fins.
Give me the Dolphins.
Dolphins, baby.
Dolphins as well. They won't be stopped.
T, we ain't gonna disappoint you this time.
Moving on to game 1 of the Monday night doubleheader, Saints and the Panthers.
Ooh, man. Give me the Saints.
Okay.
The Panthers are still too young. I like Derek Carr played good. Their defense is solid. It's a division game. It's not going to be a sexy game, much like the next game as well. I'll take New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna take New Orleans. Panthers are not ready. New Orleans looks like they're ready to be the middle of the road team that everyone needs New Orleans to be.
But
Again,
Bryce Young, we'll get to see him up close and personal on that Monday night game.
yes. And then last but not least, the Browns and the Steelers.
You know what? I'll give it to you guys. Give me the Steelers. I think you guys should win this game. Mike Tomlin is good on a bounce back. Run the ball. Just run the ball.
Please run the ball. And for the love of God, scold the fuck out of Matt Canada and tell him to put some new plays in the playbook. For the love of Christ. Give me Pittsburgh on the bounce back. Our
Love it.
defense is going to win this game, though.
Yeah, I think much like the other game, it's not going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a very low-scoring, physical game, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So yeah, that's our picks.
All right, so there you have it. We're very excited for this upcoming week. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the page. We will be here this upcoming. I will be here next
Yeah.
week to talk. Tell me where you're going to be.
So I just want to make an announcement to everyone right now. I will not be attending the next 2 weeks of our podcast. Me and a couple friends are going to Japan for a vacation. So we're going to be in Tokyo. So I will be missing this week of football, unfortunately, but I think that's a fair trade-off to be in Japan. So for the next 2 weeks, Chris Palmer, you have complete free reigns. I trust you're going to do an excellent job on this podcast, like you always do, man. And it's going to be bittersweet because I'm going to have a great time there, but I'm obviously missing football. So it's the trade-off. So
Yep, that's right. You guys are going to be stuck with my ugly mug for 2 weeks. So,
But hey, make sure you tune in. Palmer's going to do an excellent job. And there's a lot of football to talk about, and believe me, we're going to have a lot of football to talk about when I come back.
yes, the two of us will be back in 3 weeks. I will be back in 1 week. John Halpin, you have a great time over in Japan, and we will see you when you come back.
I will. Oh, thank you, my brother. And until next time, please give us a like, comment, subscribe for more great football content. Until then, we'll see you next time.